Hello Factorio people, welcome back to the broadcast from Krastorio. Episode 20! Today we're going to continue walking down the list of big builds. Builds that we need to make big for the 5,400 science cards per minute target. If you want to do the old like, comment, subscribe thing, that would be great. Thank you for all the support so far. Means a lot. Make these videos as just sort of a hobby for myself. Don't expect them to get any views, so the fact that people watch them is always astounding to me. So I'm eternally grateful for that. Okay. Without much more further ado, let's get straight into it, shall we? I believe we did electronic components last time. Inline. What I'm deciding to call inline builds, because they're in a line. Thank you. That's the excellent content I know you come here for. So the next thing that I thought would be a headache to make, because that's how we're going to go through this, things that are going to be a headache. Low density structures, done. Electronic components, done. The next thing is not a headache because of its volume, like low density structures and electronic components. It's just going to be a headache because it's an annoying build. And it's going to be rocket fuel. As always, there's 3 recipes in Krastorio for rocket fuel. They're all kind of annoying. And I always personally feel like the least annoying one is iron plates, ammonia and oxygen. Just because you can make ammonia from atmospheric condensers and water electrolysis turns H2O into the H and the O up here. So you don't need to bring anything in except for the iron plate stuff, of course. And you need a lot of it, and it goes in fuel refineries which only have a tier 1 building, and they only have a crafting speed of 1. So let's have a quick look at how much of an annoyance that would be to make. Thankfully we can repurpose the build from the main base. Just have to make it a touch bigger. My Factorio calculator tells me we will need 6,800 rocket fuel per minute. And a single one of these will make less than 1 a second, 46 a minute. So let's zoom out, shall we? See what this kind of looks like. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This will make 3,700, so we will need 2 sets of this. So not as bad as low density structures with its 4 sets. Turn alt mode back on so you can actually see what's going on. Some water electrolysis. It's much like the build in the grid, really. It's just obviously space is not an issue. We can make it as big or as small as we need it to be, which allows us to use more beacons and stuff. So separate the water into oxygen and hydrogen. This gives us enough hydrogen to pair with all of these condensers worth of nitrogen. Sorry, I decided to do my testing right on the uranium patch, sorry. So we need all of these condensers making nitrogen to pair with the hydrogen. That doesn't make quite enough oxygen, so you need to supplement the oxygen with some more condensers when the oxygen starts to run low. And then you just need to bring some iron in. So you may as well just bring the iron in. Oh, I can't remember what I did. Did I bring the iron in and make it with matter, or did I just bring it in on a train? I'm pretty sure I just bring it in on a train, because you only need just over half a purple belt. So this is kind of one of the builds where it would probably make more sense to just bring the iron in rather than bring it in with matter. A few circuit conditions, as I say, just... Oh, there's a pipe missing. You need this oxygen to supplement the oxygen you get from the water electrolysis. Is it called water electrolysis? Water separation, sorry. Water electrolysis doesn't really make much sense as a phrase, does it? But you can't have these going all of the time, because if these go all of the time, then eventually this tank will become full with oxygen, which means the water separation won't be able to work because the output is full. As you can see, that is actually happening now, just because... Must have been when I was testing, so we can just remove this hydrogen, oxygen rather, and that will sort it all out. Right, and a bit of belt braiding just to get the iron in and the rocket fuel out. I was quite proud of myself when I noticed that the power poles would go this way around. It's satisfying, isn't it? Okay, let's put this in the base and see what I've missed, if anything. See what I've missed. Here it is, ready to go. It's down over here. I'm still trying, thanks autosave, I'm still trying to be good when it comes to using the water fill mod. And at least trying to water fill on places that were existing lakes. Yeah. I do indeed bring the iron in. I'm trying to be a bit better with using loaders and unloaders. Loaders on train wagons, just because I've done a bit of testing, and UPS can suffer from relying too much on loaders. So this just... These go on the top half of the belt, these go on the bottom half of the belt. There we go. It might make more sense to have each one of these wagons be paired to a belt so that it can unload. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. So the and the iron comes in. Had to rearrange some of the pipes just because throughput was a bit of an issue. You can't get away with one pump going the whole height of this build for either the ammonia or the oxygen, so you just have to split it in two. So one pump does the first 4 lines, and so on. So let's turn it on with a very conveniently placed pylon. Boom. There we go. Just have to wait for the ammonia and the oxygen to permeate its way through. Nitrogen? Hello? It's fine, it does work. I know that it works. I'm... So I really thought this one was going to be more of a problem than this. I guess I secretly knew deep down that it wasn't going to be as much of a pain as low density structures. I kind of was surprised that we would get away with only having 2 modules of this for 5,400 science cards per minute. I really thought, given how slow these machines are. But yeah, not bad, not bad. Then I thought now what I want to do is I want to start... I went to put a label down and I thought, you know what, I don't like these. Can't see at a glance. You know? Keep having to do the bloody rate calculator over stuff. So I thought I'd install the text plates mod and have a little bit of do a little bit of a beautification phase. Not my strong suit. Just, I'm going to forewarn you. I'm not a huge fan of paving everything in concrete, as you can tell. Functionality before anything else, really. Personally, in Factorio at the very least. I think most of my rocket fuel trains are still on 4 trains, are they not? Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's fine. Get rid of this. Get rid of this one completely now, so just basically wait until we've run out of iron. Yeah, I've already done that. Turn the train off. Make sure that once all the iron's spent, then we can just delete everything else with impunity. It's only water and atmospheric condenser products, so we don't have to worry about wasting too much of that. Right, yeah, so I installed a text plate mod and had a bit of a play with stuff like that. It's alright, isn't it? Just tells you what it makes and how much it makes, and I'm going to do the old alpha, beta, gamma labelling system. I spent probably more time on this than I'm willing to admit. Different combinations of... these are the Krastorio tiles, black reinforced plates. They're kind of neat. There's also a jackhammer in Krastorio that lets you pick up tiles easily like that. I was a bit disappointed in this text plate mod. It says large coloured text plate, but it just takes the colour of your player character, which I guess is fine. If that's the only way it can work, then sure. But I kind of was hoping that I'd be able to label each thing with a different colour, or at least do something nice. But alas. So yeah, this makes 3,725 rocket fuel per minute. This electronic components down here. I assume that low density structures will be the longest. So I've scaled all of the labels to be this big. I don't actually know if that's true. I think it is. I think it is. You think energy control units has more characters in it than low density structures? I don't know. But energy control units was definitely the next thing I wanted to look at. The next headache. And it occurred to me a little bit too late that a lot of the electronic components go straight into energy control units. We were smart about it with the low density structures. We make the copper and the plastic on site because we know that, or the calculator told us, we don't. The calculator tells us that most of the steel and copper that you'll ever need to make just has to go straight here anyway, so just make it on site. But I didn't think about that with the electronic components. I just saw that electronic components in the calculator says we need 27 belts. It's not quite as bad. We need 150,000 basically electronic components per minute, and about a third of that, just over a third of that, needs to go to energy control units. So it does the rest, if you're interested. About a quarter need to go to productivity modules for purple science, 22% into advanced circuits, and 13% into speed modules for rocket control units. The red circuits need to go into... 100% of them need to go into blue circuits, so we should remember that. Need to remember that. Okay, so yeah, energy control units was next on my list. And so I realised, yes, when I was looking at how much input I can get into one assembler, that you need quite a lot of electronic components. So may as well do them in line. So I modified the build that we already have, tweaked it ever so slightly, was able to squish everything down a little bit. So to make a sensible number of electronic control units, you know, without using too many, without bringing too much of anything else in, and having a inline size decent enough, you know, so that we only need like 3 or 4 of these rather than one massive one or something like that. Anyway, so it's mostly the same. I'm going to bring the low density structures, the batteries and the immostite crystals in by train, but I'm just going to make the electronic components in line. Yeah, and as I say, I just copy and pasted the old one. I say the old one, the new one, it's brand new. Make the silicon and the glass on site, and it's essentially the same. It's just the numbers need to be slightly different. So yeah, I was imagining doing 8 wide of this again for 3,200 energy control units, and we'll need 3 modules of this. So, in fact, 24. Yeah, we'll need about 3 modules of this to hit our target. Yeah, this wasn't too laborious of a build. I'm thinking about putting it over here somewhere, because again, we'll need water for the quartz step. The rest of the base, just to give you an update, the rest of the base is going fine. Having changed all the T-junctions last time, no issues. Not that there were any issues before, but you know, the kind of thing that bugged me. I keep umming and ahhing about whether to get rid of the starter base or not. Because I thought that this mall would not keep up with our demands. But it is, it's totally fine. We're using a lot fewer belts than I anticipated. The low density structure build, of course, is monstrous. But even this is... well, it's 5,000 belts. Okay, that is quite a lot of belts. But other builds, they're not quite so belt heavy as I anticipated. I guess they use a lot of undergrounds. I guess they use a lot of undergrounds. 161 underground belts, and we keep about 200 in the base at any one time. So I keep thinking about getting rid of it. But I only really want to get rid of it when the mall stops being able to keep up. Because the other thing with the mall is that so like we've completely gone past the need for these inserters to the point where this chest was actually full of blue inserters because of how much we'd demolished previously and been replacing them with superior inserters. So I was just dumping whole chests of fast inserters into here to get the inserter parts back, because when you put an inserter in the crusher you get inserter parts back. Must have done the same with that. And there's a lot that we never need anymore. It's hard to exactly filter its way through because there are some things that go into the high tier. So for example, to make a superior assembly machine, advanced assembly machine, you need an assembly machine 3, and obviously those cascade all the way down. But that's not true of an advanced furnace. You can just make an advanced furnace. You can just make an advanced chemical plant. So really there's no reason why we ever need to make a regular lab ever again, a regular furnace ever again. You know? An advanced radar needs a radar. So I did want to go through and streamline them all and maybe have it in a grid section, because we're gaining a lot of grid sections, and I'm still going through and just putting pollution filters down just for now, because I was kind of worried about this down here. And that seems to be working. Of course, the problem with the pollution cloud is that all of my builds are down here and there are no pollution filters further south than this, so all of this pollution going south is just free to do what it wants. The stuff that spreads north is being dealt with. But that's quite far down the list of things I really want to be paying too much attention to. So basically, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And with the starter base and the mall, it's not broke, so I'm not going to bother fixing it. Alright, let's copy and paste this down somewhere. Electronic control unit somewhere that makes some sense, shall we? It's here. I'm just going to drink some of my tea. Why I didn't do that when OBS was paused, I don't know. A bit different from how it was in the original design phase, but essentially the same. And if we just run rate calculator over one line of these and do it per second, it is pretty finely tuned. It's pretty finely tuned. Currently my electronic control unit trains are 1-1 trains, so I have put the infrastructure here down to make them 1-4, but for now I'm just going to leave it. A bit of water. It's fine, it's good. It caused a huge problem with our demand for imersite crystals. I did change. Originally the design was this one. So we kind of just cheat. We bring the raw imersite in, and rather than crushing it and getting the powder, we turn it into matter, and then we turn that matter into the powder directly. We don't need to do that. We can turn anything we want into matter and then bring the matter in. It's just that I didn't want to be faffing around too much. But we're at that stage of the game where we do need to faff around. So the design looks like this. We bring the matter cubes in, turn the matter cubes into matter. It's the same thing that we've been doing for bloody 5 episodes now. I don't need to explain it to you. But this was always underscaled, I think. And it should be a simple fix, really, to get more imersite crystals. Should be. It's a simple build. Turning the matter cubes back into matter and then turning that matter into powder does not need matter stabilizers, so that's also a good win for us. It's just this throughput is quite bad. As I say, well, our imersite crystal trains are still 1-1 as well, so we need to expand this really. If we want this energy control unit thing to keep up, we're going to need to expand imersite crystals. So that's the next spinning plate that started to fall, thanks to this. So my first thought was to just buff it directly in the grid section. Just turn matter at speed into crystals. This was an okay plan, but it only made 2,500, which is not a lot. It's about 10% of what we would need for 5,400 cards per minute, and I'm not having 10 grid sections of this down. I'm also concerned about acids in the game of Factorio, not in my day-to-day life. It's not something I have to worry about, thankfully. So even though this was good and I liked it, see, we've already dried out of... Oh, we're actually dried out of matter? What's happening? Oh, I must have just had some cubes on me and I was just testing. Fine. We can do better than this. I think we can do better than this. So I picked out a nice little spot. I can't remember exactly where. And rather than going home, I went big. You can also see that these modules are... I spent a lot of time, an unnecessary amount of time, trying to scale this extremely accurately. So I got this to exactly 90 per second powder per second for one belt, and I got these to 89.73 powder per second. But that just means that the crafting and they all have the same crafting speed of 112.16. But that does mean that the beacons are very strange. So this one here is not here. This one only has one only has one module in. But whatever, that's just the kind of guy I am. The kind of way I roll. I'd rather just do it like this and waste 20 minutes of my life than have it just be quote unquote good enough. It's mostly because I feel like, and I don't know if this is true, maybe somebody who knows more about the workings of the game can tell me, that a machine that has to stop start is more computationally expensive than a machine that can just constantly run. That sounds like... half of me thinks that that sounds like it makes sense, the other half of me thinks that that's gibberish. Why would that make any sense at all? Anyway, let's expand this bad boy. I also forgot to show you that energy control units does fit into this. This is actually... it's actually fine. Anyway, Immersite crystals, here we go. It's good. It's another good build. A few tweaks. I decided to use a load to get rid of the loaders and use two inserters instead. Just swapped these around. Again, I'm cognizant that loaders might end up eventually being UPS intensive when we have so many of them in the base. So I am trying where at all possible to not use them. We'll see how much of a difference that makes. I'll show you the text plate mod works if you don't know. Surely everybody knows this, right? Immersite crystals. Can't reach. It's a bit janky, has to be said. It's a bit janky. I don't know if there's a setting as well that changes the space to be an actual space. Seems to be about the middle. Cool. It doesn't make 11,000 a minute, that's gibberish. It makes 10,000. 167. I've changed this. This isn't correct. I don't use the per minute thing in here because I want a bit of a more of a precise number, so I do this times 60. But I need to calculate for that because I can't do that in my head. So this was good. I was happy with this. But this caused a huge problem. And it's a huge problem that I've been putting off for a long time. And that is, what the hell am I going to do about sulfuric acid? Sulfuric acid needs to go everywhere. We need it here, because we're doing copper and iron enrichment for the low density structures, and I left a space. But I also thought, maybe it's fine to just bring it in by a train? It only uses 1.2 wagons a minute, so that's only a train visit every, what, 3 minutes? That's okay, 3 minutes, that's alright. But, you know, we need it here as well. Slightly more. So I went down a really deep rabbit hole, trying to work out what the best thing to do with sulfuric acid was. So, I'll just show you. This is my first thought. You can turn matter into sulfur directly with the matter stabilizers. Use a bit more matter to get iron. Turn the iron and the sulfur with some water into sulfuric acid. And I was like, okay, cool. 2,000 sulfuric acid a second. That'll fill up a train in some amount of time. Less than 5 minutes. And it works. It's not brilliant, to be honest with you. Let me put it in the base, and I'll show you exactly why it's not brilliant. There's going to be a lot of cuts coming up, sorry. It's just that I did so much testing, and so many things were going through my head. Yeah. So I did this, and I was about to wash my hands of it. I was about to be like, good, nailed it again. I'm so good. Why are you not making sulfuric acid? You don't have any water. Because I can't line up my belts properly. Oh, that means that you don't work either. I remember that happening now. Yes. So I was like, yeah, good, nailed it. I'm the best. But something about it just was not sitting well with me. It did eventually get to the point where these trains were saying destination full. and these were all full of sulfuric acid. But it didn't feel right. And then also, something else broke. Not this. This all broke because I actually expanded my train that I was using to travel around the base, and I added one too many wagons, which caused a blockage here at my mall stacker, which caused the lubricant train to not be able to drop off lubricant. And that was helpful in a way, because that caused me to realise, oh wait, lubricant. How are we going to get lubricant? Because I was going to get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. And then I had a look and thought, well, where else is petroleum even going? If we're not using petroleum for plastic anymore, and we're not using petroleum for sulfuric acid anymore, where's petroleum even going? And the answer is it's going into fertilizer at a vanishingly small rate. 8 petroleum per second. Well, slightly more than that, because that's doubled over here. So hardly any petroleum is going into that. And petroleum also goes into... Oh, can't remember off the top of my head. Definitely goes somewhere else that is not very needed. What is it? Biomass and... Maybe it was just that. It was just that. It was those 2 stations. That's right. It's because there's 2 stations that are called that. Petroleum to... assembly machine. This one's gone. This is the sulfuric acid. Yeah, that's right. It was these 2 stations. So that means we basically don't use any petroleum in the entire base. But we still have a desire for lubricant. And we're going to definitely need a lot of lubricant. Because we need to make electric engines for advanced tech cards. So then this was broken. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll just make some sulfuric acid at the base so that petroleum production can keep going, so that lubricant production can keep going. And I thought, oh, what I'll do is I'll just make this sulfuric acid plant up here just absolutely eat through petroleum. Which it kind of already does, to be honest with you. So then when I looked at the numbers for this, I was like, this is already making 2,100 sulfuric acid a second. Why have I gone through all of the effort of doing this for 2,000 sulfuric acid a second, when clearly you can get a lab running quite fast? So then I decided, right, how fast? Legitimately, how fast can one advanced chemical plant make sulfuric acid? And we'll take it from there. I've come up with this. Just to warn you, the advanced chemical lab starts just because of how the design works. It makes kind of an awful noise. So just, I'm sorry, there's not really much I can do about it. So just be wary of that. This is about how fast you can make sulfuric acid. You're limited by how quickly you can get petroleum into the advanced chemical plant, basically. This says that it uses more water than 2 pumps, but it never stops because you can't get petroleum in fast enough. Let me remove all the sulfuric acid from the system and have it start up again. It's funny because even though it says it's working, and if I go into editor mode and slow the game down to quarter speed, it always says that it's working. It never actually says item ingredient shortage, but if it were to be always working, if it were working as fast as it physically could, it would not have enough water. This needs 2,600 water per second, and a pump can only make 1,250 water per second. So in theory, it should be short on water, and it's not, because it can't get the petroleum in fast enough. There is some downtime here as the petroleum ticks up. That much sulfur into this advanced chemical plant would need a lot of water, and I was like, oh, I can't, there's only 3 inputs, how am I going to get that much water in? Oh wait, I could put water into a tank and then put the tank, connect the tank directly to the thing. And again, you're kind of limited by the pipe throughput. So anyway, I got this up to 2,744 per second. And so then that made me realise that doing it via the sulfur method, turn the editor off again. I've turned the editor off, but the game speed has remained at a quarter. I didn't know that that's how that works. So I realised I could make sulfur a lot better, a lot more goodly, if I turned the matter into crude oil and produced a lot of petroleum on site, and then turned that petroleum directly into sulfur with some water. Rather than being limited by how fast you can make sulfur from matter, I'll be limited by how fast I can make crude oil from matter, and crude oil being a fluid, obviously my throughput will be a lot higher. I won't need the matter stabilizers anymore, because you can just turn matter into crude oil directly. And then if I'm turning crude oil into petroleum, that also gives me a chance to turn some of that oil byproduct into lubricant. And I will kill many birds with one stone. So I tore it all down and I changed it. And as we all know, oil is pain in the arse. Always is, always has been. Always will be. An absolute flipping nightmare. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll just use the basic oil recipe, you know, just crude oil in, petroleum gas out. But you get so much more petroleum. You get 10 extra petroleum gas just from using this anyway. And then the heavy oil and the light oil and all the stacking productivity, etc., etc. It just, you kind of just have to buckle up and do it. So we make more sulfuric acid per second in this design in one chemical lab. We use much less matter, we don't need the charge matter stabilizers, and we also get the lubricant out of it. I put landfill in this, and then I wanted to bring the water in to not have the water look quite so cheaty as it did when I was testing. It doesn't look brilliant. I make a few tweaks, don't worry. It's kind of hard to balance the sulfur like this when it's only coming out of one plant. I'm just going to do it like this. It's not perfect, I realise. But eventually it will be fine. Eventually each one of these tanks will be full. And when more sulfuric acid needs to come in, it won't take very long to just fill up. We fill up, as I say, we get 120,000 per minute, so it won't take very long to just take each 25,000 sulfuric acid out of this. Right, let's turn this on. Even though it has already been turned on for testing, but let's turn it on for you. There it goes. These won't run at full speed, and consequently sulfuric acid won't actually run at full speed until the lubricant is done. But this is enough lubricant for 5,400 science cards per minute. 48,000 lubricant per minute, and the amount that you need to put into electric engines for science cards is 41,000. So if we double this up somewhere, if we make sulfuric acid beta somewhere, we could just remove this part of it, remove the pump, remove this circuit condition, remove this station. So yes, I suppose this number isn't technically correct, but this will fill up quite fast. Yeah. So that's good. So the sulfuric acid problem is essentially solved now after a lot of headaches. I've expanded the train network a little bit. I'm a little bit concerned about rail spaghetti here, but I'm thinking as long as I keep tying up bits, you know, this was a U-turn here, but so now that I've connected this up, trains can go either way. They still have to turn around here, especially if they come this way, but I'm not too concerned about that. Tied this up. Once this copper goes, obviously I can tidy this up slightly. I'm not too concerned about rail spaghetti. I'm hoping that with the matter system, the rail network should be fairly quiet. It's mostly going to be trains with sulfuric acid and nitric acid. I don't even want to think about nitric acid. That's a problem for later. I make a few tweaks to this. Let me just skip ahead for the sake of aesthetics. I put the lake back with some water fill, just so that it doesn't look so stupid. And I redid my landfill. I use the editor, alright, to just put the grass back here. I'm gonna install a mod, Factorio probably, to allow me to put grass tiles back down. I didn't want to go through all the rigmarole of installing a mod just to do like 50 tiles worth of landfill back to grass. You should be able to put grass down, in my opinion. So yeah, so this is this now, thankfully. This does mean that we have completely removed our need for petroleum in the main base. We make, well, except for, as I say, except for the wood to fertilizer. So I'm going to leave one of these up, just as a token amount, and I'll leave one train going. But we don't need the lubricant build bit anymore. These can just go. I'm just going to delete these. I don't even think I'm going to care too much about 200, 400,000 petroleum just in trains. It can just disappear. So these, I'll turn these crude oil facilities just into matter plants. Crude oil, as we established, is quite efficient in terms of making matter, because, as I said last episode, the fluid throughput is just faster than items on belts. I have been, when I remember, adding more matter plants. The original matter plants are slowing down quite considerably. If I turn debug mode on here to see the gaps on the belts, you can see these edge ones are, I mean, you can just see from the miners versus the belts and the ore that's left. So, you know, these aren't going to last forever. So I have been trying to add more matter when I need to do something else for 20 minutes that's not design. Stupid crap. And pollution is, as I say, spreading southwards because most of our pollution now comes from these builds rather than the base. So we need to do something about that, probably. Might just be a simple case of copy and pasting this pollution filter build somewhere down here as well, and just putting a whole bunch of pollution filters across. I suppose I could also just defend the base properly, but who's got time for that? Okay, so with sulfuric acid problems solved, and my inability to speak the English language, we'll call that an episode. Nitric acid is the next step. I'm not anticipating that one being as much of a pain, because it's only mineral water, rare metals, and something else. Oh, ammonia, of course. Of course it is. Rare metals, ammonia, mineral water. That shouldn't be too much of a problem at all. So yeah, good headway, good strides, I feel like. Good strides made here today. Sulfuric acid being here and then low density structures needing sulfuric acid here is definitely It's not ideal. I do think a lot of the train traffic is going to end up being sulfuric acid going around the base. I suppose I could look at doing smaller modules of this. But I think this is fine. As you can see, we're all full up now. This train says it's destination full. There's 3 trains here waiting. The throughput of a fluid train is so fast. If I have to double this up and put it somewhere else over here when we copy and paste all of this, because obviously that's coming soon. We need 4 of these. We need 3 of these. We need 4 of these. You know? Anyway. Really bad at outros, aren't I? Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please let me know with a like and a comment. And if you want to see more Krastorio, be sure to subscribe. Other than that, take care. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.